Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Drakengard 3 reaction. Big shocker, Thracian in my Patreon producer queue is the one who threw this at me. This is the 13th chapter closing. I assume this means it's the last song. Maybe. I don't really know. The title kind of gives me that vibe, but I also don't know if it's going to have any references to anything I've heard before. I also don't know if I'll recognize it because the last two were kind of similar, very much so, and I don't know if this is going to have some of those motifs or if it's just going to be its own thing. I can never really tell. So, guess without further ado, I'm going to hear what this one is, and let's go! Ooh. Muted timpani swell, or was that a giant bass drum? Could have been a really big bass drum. Like a 35-inch. So far, already sounds very different. Just that constant fall in the chimes. That's the same sound my insulin pump makes when my blood sugar's low. So, like, I know it's not my insulin pump, but it's giving me a little bit of PTSD. Rest of it's beautiful. Just that one aspect of it, I'm like, ah. The strings in here are really condensed. They're all very tight on top of each other. Not a lot of room in there. I mean, there's a lot of that in general. A lot of things on top of each other. Not much is getting its own room. Changing it up a little bit there. Those chimes are great. They're adding a lot to the song. They don't feel like they are, but they are. Beautiful vocals on the top too, like easily the most separated feature of the song, which makes sense. Vocals tend to be very prominent. Maybe it's the percussionist in me, but I can't get over those chimes. I think they might be the unsung hero here. I'll explain why. Beautiful, though. God, yeah, those chimes are really what made this song unique in itself. It was a beautiful track altogether, but those chimes were really pulling their weight in the mix. I feel like this is going to be mostly me talking about those chimes because they have enough for me to talk about that I could go on for a bit. So I'm going to. These chimes are really what made the song happen. For those who don't know what I'm talking about exactly when I say chimes, I mean those long bell chimes that hang from like a rack and you hit them with a mallet. Those are a very, unfortunately, but also understandably underutilized little piece of kit in the toolbox of any orchestra. And the reason being because they're so powerful and they have the ability to completely break a song down if they're not used sparingly. So for this song to use them pretty much continuously from start to finish is bold, but I also think it made all the difference here. The reason being, they resonate like crazy. Again, they're giant tubes of brass more often than not, and they are insanely resonant. They hold forever. Their sustain is nuts. If you don't choke them out, which of course most of them have like choke pedals built in to mute them so they don't go too long. I heard it used multiple times in here for that exact reason, but I think it's also the fact that they didn't most of the time. The entire song was backed by the resonance, the clashing, the detuning of everything in here. Those chimes are very well tuned. Obviously, they have to be, but I think they either purposefully detuned them in post for this, or they were using something like a half step down to be able to play them because it sounded ever so slightly off compared to the rest of the song. But again, I think that added a lot. I think it added this muddiness to the song that made everything kind of come together a little bit. And that comment I made during the beginning of the song where everything felt like it was really tight and together, like there wasn't any room, I think that those might have been what caused that. Which is really cool, because if you didn't have that, the vibe of the song would have been entirely different. So using them is insanely intelligent. Just again, you don't want to overuse them, but there are very rare but very useful scenarios for that to get that vibe out of them. And this, I think, is one of those songs. I think I've heard like 3 or 4 songs in my entire life that use this much chime with all of that resonance left alone and not immediately choked out. Again, they are very big. They are very resonant. They will sustain over everything and under everything, and most of the time will ruin a song. But there is, once in a blue moon, a composer who knows exactly what they need when they need it. And I think for this one, having those bells in there is exactly what made it work. The rest of the song is beautiful, as I've come to expect from Drakengard, but at the same time, with this one, it needed to do something different, and I could feel that. Like, there was a specific thing they had to do. There was a specific energy they were going for, and they didn't want to have too much open room, too much wideness in the orchestra. They wanted everything to feel very tight, condensed, maybe a little bit claustrophobic, and even with the vocals standing on top of everything, I think that that vocal line was signifying the one person standing above the many below it. I think this muddiness that the chimes were doing was bringing everything together to feel kind of like a homogenous pool of people maybe, and the voice on the top is somebody who's either talking to them and addressing them directly or trying to make it clear that there is a bigger purpose to the people that are the chimes and the rest of the orchestra here. And while everything is still working in harmony, things are there, there's this detuned factor of those chimes that's kind of making everything a little bit more confusing and harder to decipher. I think that's entirely what they were going for here. I don't know what story beat this plays on as per usual, but I would not be surprised if that's the case. If the voice was supposed to be the thing on top, these chimes were trying to kind of get in the way of that while still tying everything else together. Like, because of their detuning, because of that confusion in their sound, it was bringing everything else around them together. So this would be perfect to signify something like a confusion during a war, something like a queen or a king standing on the terrace trying to talk down to their subjects and explain the situation, and maybe not trying to rile them up for war or anything, but still trying to make sure that it is clear what is happening, how things are going. This is a very caring person, but also somebody with a very powerful voice that's able to resonate above all of that other noise, you know? Like, that muddiness is really what made this song have a story to me. I have no clue if I'm accurate on that assumption. I hope I am, but I'll always hope I am. I just don't have much to go off of with this one. I've only heard a few songs from Drakengard, and I don't really know much of the story stuff, so I very well could be wrong, but it also feels so right. All that muddiness, all that chime in there, it's so rare, but that's exactly why it's so impressive to me, because it is so difficult to control. And I think the voice on the top was also trying to signify how difficult it was to talk over all that and still make yourself heard when everything else is kind of chaotic down below. But I think I've said all I want to be honest. A lot of it was the chime thing, but I think, again, that was really the shining star of this song. Even if nobody really noticed or cared, I feel like it was doing its purpose so well, and I think the composer did a great job at utilizing it because it is so hard to do correctly. So I think I'll end the video here. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you have something you want me to get to specifically, leave it down in the comments below, and I will do my best as always to get to those. Or if you want to guarantee something much like Thracian did, you can go to my Patreon or my YouTube memberships. There's a tier that will force me to listen to whatever you want me to listen to. I don't care what it's from, who it's by, how good or bad it is, doesn't matter. That's why it's guaranteed. But otherwise, if you just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!